ロカールさんが、Working in the Cloud という発表を、してくれます。
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Yes, excellent. Hello. My name is Léon Brocard, and I'm a French Perl hacker living in London. I started Yapsi Europe. Yay! But you should all travel to other Yapsies, because we travel to other Yapsies. Today I'm going to talk about clouds and how to live in the cloud. By cloud, I mean, the network clouds you have on diagrams, rather than working in a skyscraper or something like that. Oh, and please ask questions and interrupt me if I get anything wrong. So this slide is all about asking you questions. And the thing is, I'm trying to explain that you don't make everything. As open source hackers, we want to make everything. We want to understand how everything works. But in general, you don't actually do this. So who, for example, has started their own mobile network?
自分のモバイルネットワークをスタートした方いらっしゃいますか？
No, mobile phone. No one? Okay, who has started their own ISP? Okay, it's important that someone's done it. But most of us just pay someone to provide internet service to our homes. Who hosts their own email servers? Okay, a couple. I used to do that. No more. Who hosts their own blog servers? How many 6-part employees? Right. Okay, who hosts their own IM network? I guess if you run Jabber on your own servers, it's about the same thing. But most people use another IM network. Who hosts their own DNS servers? It's the same people who host their mail servers. But most people don't do that. Most DNS providers, registrars, do that for them. And who hosts their own web servers? Okay, that's more of you.
More people that know Perl.
So the problem is, well, it all started because I started a company with my friend called Mr. Monkey. And I was thinking, oh no, it's an internet company, we're going to have to buy some hardware, we're going to have to put it in data centers. And I did some research, and I live in London, so I was looking in London, and London is very small and doesn't have much space. So co-location is really, really expensive in London, especially power. They say you can have half an amp per U. That's the default amount of power. And if you know anything about servers, you need like 20 amps per U for anything sensible. And nothing has any space. Just this much space in a data center isn't available in London. And of course, you probably want to make it more reliable, so you want more than one server and so on. And it was just too annoying. And I looked at energy prices. I did some research. So this is Department of Energy in the US. And commercial electricity prices has basically stayed the same, adjusted for inflation. So, power is annoying. And when you host your own servers, you have software, and software goes wrong. And you have your own servers, and servers die. And you have hardware, so you might have your own switches or other equipment, and they will go wrong. And then the network will go wrong. It will time out occasionally. It will just be flaky. And then data centers occasionally just go down completely. So if you want to do this properly, you need multiple data centers, and too much pain. So we outsource the problem. The company lives in the cloud. So I don't host my own DNS. That's by Gandhi, a French company. I don't host my own email servers or instant messaging network. That's hosted by Google. To is hosted by Hiveminder. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Ciel. And I have put everything on Amazon servers. So my hosting, my storage, and all my networking is hosted by Amazon. Amazon's Elastic Compute Cloud and Amazon's Simple Storage Service. Because everything is moving into the cloud. Everything's moving away from your servers. Everything is moving away from real things. Because computers are getting much more powerful. Most of the time, you don't need a whole computer to do one thing. Because 8-core servers these days which are way too powerful for you, really. And the network is basically fast enough in most places. This is because things have become good enough that everything's happening. TCP/IP is pretty much everywhere these days, and HTTP is good enough as a protocol. We love HTTP. It's a very, very simple protocol. And SSL is secure enough if you start getting worried about security. And the thing is, we're open source programmers, so we can take all this open source that's out there and use it in an interesting way, which gives us lots of flexibility. And the key thing which has really allowed this to take over is virtual machines. So having an image of a machine that you can replicate in many different places, or bring up or down, or move around. And that's the key thing which has meant that virtual hosting is much more powerful than it used to be. And I did some research on Wikipedia, and MIPS processors, for example, have basically stayed flat for a good 20 years, and now we have up there, that's an 8-core Xeon server. It's crazy the amount of processing we have. And this whole thing is not just called cloud computing. It has lots of names, and one of the names is software as a service. And there are lots of, maybe it's a bad name. That's the next slide. So there are lots of companies which do this kind of thing, which provide a service basically over the internet. That's what it means. And so there was a company called Zimkey, which provided a kind of hosted JavaScript on the server side. There was Salesforce has a very large area of hosted Salesforce applications. Has anyone played with Salesforce? Including the applications? Including the extra bits?
Not very deep, but yeah.
Excellent. There was Ning, which is basically a hosted social network service plus more. And Amazon's Elastic Compute Cloud is just start up servers whenever you want. Simple Storage Service is store data and get it back at some point. And Google App Engine is just come out recently, which makes it very, very easy to push applications live. Has anyone played with Google App Engine? You really should. It's really nice how easy it is to write a Python application and move it live. And I don't know anything about Python, but I guessed the syntax and it worked. You could always wait for Perl bindings. Or you could try and target Perl 5 to Python bytecode. How hard could it be? So there's lots of little X as a service. So we have business as a service, which is kind of what a business is, really. You have organization as a service, which is probably consulting, really. Process as a service, more consulting. Data as a service. Software as a service, which is the one everyone thinks is a good one. A framework as a service. No frameworks. Hardware as a service is probably, well, it's probably the one which is most accurate. Well, infrastructure as a service is really what we're outsourcing to Amazon, because they have to worry about all the computers and all the switches and networks. And the one Simon Wardley has come up with is nothing as a service, which is probably what a lot of services do.
There are a couple that aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's censorship as a service that you don't have there. Actually, that mixes in, both of these mix into either to any of these. And there also doesn't seem to be surveillance as a service.
Well, that's because you can't really buy that. Only the government does that. You get those for free. There are absolutely no issues with giving all your data and information to these large companies. No problems at all. Why? What's your next talk, Jesse? So I outsource all my things to Amazon, or a lot of things to Amazon, and it's a good service. So it's a compute cloud service. So you can start up servers and various either small servers or medium or very, very powerful servers at any time. You can start up 20 or 100 or however many you want. And it has recently got a much better service than it used to be, because there's things like Elastic IP, so you can move one IP between all these servers so you can start doing a bit more availability. And they've dropped the bandwidth prices recently, which is something other companies have never, ever done. I used to be a client of Akamai, and Akamai would never, ever drop any prices, ever, in like years of bandwidth prices dropping by 50% every year. And they have a new status page, which before you had to go to the forum and say, it looks like it's broken. And maybe someone from Amazon would go, yes, you're right, it is broken. Whereas now there is a status page where they check that things are all working. And you can subscribe to RSS feeds, and that's important. And the simple storage service is pretty good. You can store lots of very large files very quickly on there, and it's has some limitations because sometimes it goes wrong. But I wrote a Amazon S3 module which hides all that for you, because you can just say retry the query if you have a 500 error, which is what Amazon says you might have sometimes if things are busy. So it's almost a content distribution network. It's fast enough, and bandwidth to the States is good enough these days that it's almost like a CDN, if you want to use it for that.
Is that the tie-in to Pearl?
That's Pearl.
The net Amazon S3?
Absolutely.
That's what's giving you the free entrance into the conference.
Hi. What? This is all talk about Pearl. Pearl is in the cloud. Do you not see that? Oh yes, I thought it would be interesting to show you that this is a bandwidth cost price. So I got 43 gigabytes for $6, which is nothing. Because in dollars, it's great. Oh, sorry. So when people talk about this kind of scaling in the cloud, clouds, they always think about scaling and how to make things better and bigger. And once you start having the problem of 1 million new users every day, what do you do? And as always, don't worry about scaling. It's the root of all evil. Don't make it infinitely scalable if you get 100 users. It's not worth it. But the nice thing about Amazon S3 is, and EC2 and S3 is that you can scale. Because these companies have a large infrastructure for lots of users, it is very scalable. And the best thing about Google App Engine isn't the fact that they host your applications, or that you can quickly write Python, or that you can develop it very quickly on your own servers. It's the fact that you have access to a data store which is very, very scalable. And we'll see more about that when more of you try App Engine. It's very, very cool technology. For very, very big deployments, if you are, I was going to say YouTube, but then I guess they got bought by Google, so they are in the cloud. If you do have a very, very, very big service, it might be worth your time to actually do it yourself, not to actually have your own service, to have your proper network engineers, because it's not the best idea to do everything in the cloud. For example, there is such a thing as data protection in Europe is very strong. So it might be against the law for personal data of a European customer for a European company to be stored outside Europe. So keeping your information inside the data protection area might be a very important idea. And there are some issues. When you're not in charge of everything, it means you're not in charge of everything. So you might have problems with reliability. You might have problems with availability. You might have problems with making it do exactly what you want it to do. And you will not be able to be in charge of everything. So you might have some issues. And you will be very, very worried about lock-in. Oh no. And that is a very big problem, because if you have deployed to Google App Engine, that's a bad example. If you have deployed to Amazon using S3 and EC2, then you're pretty much stuck with Amazon and EC2, unless someone has a similar scalable web server, or you might have to do a lot of work in order to move somewhere else. If you move to Google App Engine, then you'll be very, very, you'll be in major problems because no one else has a scalable data store, which is the base of it. And you have the small problem with service level agreements. Service level agreements might be very useful, but they tend to be the cost of the hosting. And the cost of, so if they're down for 5 hours a month, then Amazon will give you a few dollars. But a few dollars isn't the business cost of being down for 5 hours a month. So you have to worry about that kind of thing. If you want a higher service level of agreement, you will have to pay more. That's clear. And if you've done some research on electricity and how it was developed in the past, companies used to have their own electricity officer on the board of directors. Because having electricity or having electricity better and cheaper than the next factory was a competitive advantage. Electricity is no longer a competitive advantage, and I am trying to convince you that neither is hosting any of your hardware. All you need is a credit card. That's the main difference. You don't have to sign any contracts. You don't have to talk to any managers or salespeople. You just go online, pay the bills, and it's all there. Have I convinced you? No.
Can I use your credit card? Maybe you're convinced their services in the cloud.
That's money in the cloud.
Money as service.
Money in the cloud.
Are there any questions?
What happens when we decide that Mr. Monkey wants to sell books online?
So the question is, what happens when Mr. Monkey decides that we want to sell books online? And there isn't anything in the terms of agreement saying that we can't sell books online on Amazon's servers,
You know what? I think
but they
there's a
might.
fine button that says exactly that when you start eating into the revenue.
Exactly. You have to be careful. You have to have, yeah, that is a very valid concern. I agree.
So I used to be the guy that got paid to talk about this stuff. And their official position, right, was that you can do whatever you want. It's freedom. And then people started making too much money off of their books data, in which they summarily changed the licensing agreement, which you could not make money off of their books data without being part of the benefit of the associate program. So take it with a grain of salt. It's free for now.
That wasn't a question. Could you try a question? Yeah. Does anyone have a question?
So I missed the very first part of your talk. You're integrating S3 and EC2 with the Pro Stack to achieve your site.
Exactly.
What was the hardest part of the integration? And how are you maintaining your Perl stacks on your different boxes? What's the secret sauce that you found to do that, to make sure that you've always got the right modules installed?
So this is really a question about package management.
Yes.
And package management is a wonderful question and a huge problem. And Perl does it very badly. Because Perl doesn't do package management. Well, it does its own package management, kind of, only you can't remove them or actually upgrade things very well, because it leaves the old things lying around. And in fact, you can't have multiple versions that well. And it doesn't integrate with, say, the distribution package management very well. And that is a huge problem. What someone should do is spend some time integrating with package management systems. And there is a grant which is going for the Perl Foundation, which is to make BSD-PAN, which is a FreeBSD Perl CPAN/packaging integration thing, work more better and portably. But it's actually a very complicated problem.
I feel bad saying it again. Come to my talk tomorrow where I'll show you the thing we built to deal with that.
And you should go to Jesse's talk tomorrow. Excellent. come talk to me afterwards, please. Maybe about Perl or cloud things. Thank you very much.